186.
Welcome back to the Business Zone. This is Gilbert Buchanan, the small business paramedic, along with
Crystal Mitchell.
And we just had a very powerful guest on our show, Miss Gwen. Miss Gwen, you're phenomenal, and the resource that you shared with us, the information is just the bomb. So, you know, the kids today, they talk about you being the bomb.com. That's what you are. You're the bomb.com, okay?
Yes, definitely the bomb.com. And, you know, we don't usually talk to, we should have those conversations with our elders, our seniors, because they're more than just the surface of what we see.
They know so much.
Right, exactly.
And see, that's the same conflict I'm having in my family right now because, you know, most of the elders, they're gone. The only one that's left right now is my mom, and she can't really tell us much because she's got dementia.
Oh, so
you know, so she doesn't even know me sometimes when I show up. You know, she's who are you? You know, so I would have loved to have had this kind of conversation with her and the others back then.
Yes.
But that's phenomenal. So, Crystal, we've got another guest on the show.
And we do. Mr. Thomas T.J. Loftin. He's a global business leader with nearly 3 decades of business entrepreneurial coaching experience as the former CEO of 3 companies. Thomas T.J. Loftin founded the 3 successful global businesses, including Express Gold Plating, Compton Wire Wheels, and Molded Suspension. Thomas was a manufacturer, distributor, and exclusive dealer of dozens of auto parts and accessories, supplying over 100 stores around the world. He then franchised his business, Express Gold Plating, and played a pivotal role in creating a new multi-billion-dollar industry during that time. His classic cars led him into the film industry, as his cars were featured in music videos, movies, and television shows. He was invited to be on the set of NWA's reunion movie Straight Outta Compton and Driving While Black. TJ was featured in a two-page article on the cover of the November issue of Wheels magazine. Today, Loftin still manufactures and ships auto parts around the world and now has a production company called Loftin. That's cute. Productions. He travels around the country giving workshops, coaching, consulting, and facilitating boot camps and webinars promoting the original hit concept of creating wealth from the dirt. These workshops illustrate how to think outside the box and give explanations as how to be a leader in your own industry. Loftin's presentations are designed to teach clients of all ages how to start lucrative businesses and create legacies that will withstand the test of time, teaching how to identify and create innovative investment opportunities and adopt the most successful habits of business-minded people. And wow, Mr. Loftin, welcome. Now, TJ and I have been crossing each other's path all year long, all last year. Yeah. I think last year was the first time that we became aware of each other, at least personally. And so he's been at some of the conferences I've been at, and I've gotten to know him. And so it's
welcome
a
to the show, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Truly appreciate it. Your accomplishments seem very impressive and outstanding. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do for us.
So how did you, what's the humble beginnings of TJ Loftin? How did all of this come about? And I assume you had an interest in cars. Is that the start?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Grew up in Compton, California, which was the lowrider capital of the world at the time. You know, everybody's first main car was a lowrider. Okay. So I see a lot of people working on them, and I'm a young guy at 9 years old. I want to touch and feel, and I want a car.
Okay. You want a car?
I'm attracted. Can I ride? Can I just hang around you guys? And the guy, one of my buddies, said, "Yeah. Matter of fact, go pick up that heavy battery." So one of my first little jobs was moving stuff around and helping him.
Okay.
You know, so it was just profound.
And I think it wasn't in the movie Fast and Furious. That was how a lot of them got started in the car racing with the low riders and so forth. I actually love that, the whole entire 7 series. I love those car movies. But and then that developed into a business, or?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the business was out of people's backyards. Lowriding was like a backyard hobby at the time. There was probably like 3,000 lowriders, lowriders running around Compton, LA, and Watts, and probably 4 shops in various people's backyards.
Okay.
So I was one of the first to say, you know what, I'm going to open up a business and try to do this legally thing, Because I learned a little bit about business licensing and renting buildings and things like that. So I did it, and it was a success. And I managed to go back and bring a lot of my friends out of the backyards as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. Because, at one time, that the Urban League had a program where they were doing automobile mechanic training. In fact, it was right there on Crenshaw when you're heading up to, I think that's, what is that, Stalker? It's right there. They used to own that building, and it was an auto mechanic training center.
That's very important, because I graduated from Centennial High School from an auto mechanic class, and I always tell people I probably would have dropped out of school had it not been for that auto mechanic class.
That's true.
They made that my very last class, and that was actually the first class I ever got an A in.
And it's interesting how the trades are an important factor, and they were removed from our school.
Absolutely.
But a lot of our parents, that's where they got those skill sets, because a trade becomes a business.
Absolutely.
Well, you just mentioned Jamaica, and that's what we did back in Jamaica. When you go to school, you're going to learn the high-power classes, accounting, physics, and all of that. But you got to also learn about auto mechanic. You got to learn about welding. You got to learn about all these other crafts, these technical crafts.
Yes, sir.
Because we never know when we're going to need to gravitate towards that. And that's why a lot of us today, we know a little bit about auto mechanics. We know a little bit about welding. Yep. We know a little bit about air conditioning, all of those things. And, we need to that. We need to know that. So
absolutely,
more power to you, my brother.
So were there any entrepreneurs in your family?
Absolutely, it is.
Okay.
I was told that my family is one of the wealthiest families in America.
Oh, yeah?
It's called the Watkins family from Alabama.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, okay.
One of my uncle's cousins tried to buy the Dodgers before McCourt bought it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then they protested, said, he's not even in Forbes magazine.
Oh, man.
Wow.
So I said, well, if that's the case, then why is they even talking with him? He wouldn't even be at the table if he didn't have the money.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's in your DNA.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Now, as a young boy, though, did you not know about the family?
Yeah, I know that my family on the East Coast family was very wealthy, and the West Coast family was job oriented.
See, and that's where we got to come together on that, right? Is to teach and expose our children.
Well, there are 2 types of people out there, right? You got employees and you got entrepreneurs, right? So
you got the employer and the employee, and you need both of them to make it work. So you became quite successful in the automotive, and was that the platform? Because I know you're into land development.
Absolutely.
And so is that how you acquired the money to become your own investor?
Well,
so to speak.
It started the cars is where the money came from.
Okay.
Meaning I had because when I started building these cars, a lot of people globally were seeing these videos, with all the rappers and lowriders, and they were like, we want one of those cars, Right. So they would call down to Compton and say, I was in Gardena at the time, and say, hey, I want to buy some of those cars. And I'm like, now I'm buying a lot of cars, and I'm shipping them from all over the country, because America is where General Motors is the birthplace.
Right, exactly.
So we have cars hitting all in the hills and people's backyards and barns. So fast forward the story, I started bringing these cars back like 30, 40, 50 a week or a month, and I didn't have anywhere to keep them. So someone recommended, hey, you should buy some land in Palmdale and move all those cars, because at one time I had over 200 cars probably.
That is such a smart move.
Wow.
That is such a smart move.
Yeah, so I picked up a piece of land in the middle of nowhere with a fence around it.
The tax base is really low.
Right. So I paid about, $500 for one, $1,500 for another one, and then I got like 30 cars on this one, 50 on that one. I got tow trucks on this one, you know. And then all of a sudden, what is it? The development started. A lot of people didn't realize that in 2002 to 2006, Palmdale was the fastest growing city in America.
That is true.
Which led to developers coming out there building we got a brand new Walmart, we got a brand new Staples, we got a brand new Circuit City, we got a brand new, it was just out of control. So they kept coming to me saying, hey, we want to buy that land.
Wow.
We know you pay $1,500 for it. We'll give you $50 for it. And I'm like, okay, I got 100 cars on that lot. Like, no. You know,
that's not enough money yet.
It's not worth it, you know. So fast forward the story, I started seeing all this development, and I remember seeing these houses were being built. And I just realized, I said, wait a minute. They gave me, you know, a lot of money, way 100 times what I paid for it. And then they put this big mall on it, and they put this shopping center, and they put a Staples, and I'm like, wait a minute, what if I'd have kept that land?
Right, exactly.
Built my own shopping center, you know? And that's how it got started. So I started building houses, and it just blew up. I started building one, then I realized it was cheaper to build two, then I learned the game, then I started building 3 and 4. And then I came back to Los Angeles, and people were like, we're flipping. I'm like, really? Flipping? Like, what's that? Like, flipping? Y'all ain't making no money, you know? They're like, oh, we making money. You can't tell me anything. I'm like, okay.
But you got rent coming in, right? Because it's ongoing. It's the streams of income coming in, not the one lump sum.
Right. The flippers will flip one house a year.
Right.
Because it's so difficult to find houses. I'm like, how many houses are you flipping? Right. Okay, how much did you make? Oh, you made $50,000. He's happy.
Right.
And I'm like, we were making $300 and $400 per house.
Yeah.
And building, if we wanted to build 50, we can build 50.
Yeah.
If we wanted to build 200, we can build 200. Unlimited sources. We were hiring friends and family, and now they're building.
You know, that will make a great segue into the next question that I have. Now, I mentioned earlier about many of our small businesses leasing from landlords and then when they fix up the place, dress it up because it was really crappy when they got it.
Right.
They fix it up, then all of a sudden the landlord go, oh, gotta go.
Yep.
I need my place. So now they can sell it or rent it out for much higher. How do you view that, and how, you know, what words of wisdom do you have for some of these entrepreneurs who are involved in that?
You know, that's interesting you say that, because I started teaching a lot of workshops about that same topic. And actually, March 5th, I'll be in Arizona at a hair show, natural hair show, teaching them about purchasing the land and building buildings, because a lot of our hair industry, the barbers and the beauty salons, they're moving every 3 and 4 years.
Exactly.
You know, not just them, but all the black businesses.
Exactly.
I don't have to tell you guys about Crenshaw. I know you know.
Yeah.
But I recommend that we do not lease buildings if we don't have to. We can afford to buy, let's buy.
Can you say that again, please?
do not lease buildings, because especially the reason why is most of these people know that the metro's coming and they're going to be able to sell it soon. So they're putting people on month-to-month leases or one-year leases. I recommend, if you can't get a 10-year lease, don't accept anything less than 3, because that 3 years will fly by.
That's what I'm talking about.
So we got to start. I'm teaching people to come together. So where for example, you have a radio station, I have a teaching class, and she has a beauty salon. Well, let's come together and buy this building.
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
You know? So we don't conflict with each other.
Yes.
So this is how it's going to work for us.
I love that. I love that concept, because that's what I've been trying to preach for years to small businesses, because they really don't get it. And by ourselves, we really can't go out and purchase these properties. We got to collaborate, like you're saying.
Right. And then on another note, how I started opening up multiple businesses is I started noticing, I had my first shop in Gardena, California, and I started noticing my receipts all said Palmdale, Lancaster, Lake LA, Hesperia. And I'm like, where is this? You know? So I'm looking at it, and it's like 60% of my income is coming from this this place here. So I realized, I said, maybe I should open up another location out there, and I can make some money. Because if they're driving all the way from Palmdale to Gardena, then maybe I need to make sure that they keep coming to me. So I opened up a second location.
Beautiful.
Smartest thing I ever did. So I encourage people to rent is high here in Los Angeles. But when you go to Palmdale, I think my shop there, I had a huge shop for $500 a month.
That's what I'm talking
where
about.
I was paying $1,500 here. And that wasn't big enough.
This is amazing.
So I encourage and I teach people when I'm coaching, I say, look, I know you want to have the biggest beauty salon in Inglewood, but you're paying $4,000 a month. 60% of your clients live in Palmdale, Paris, California, and all these other places. But so why don't you just scale back from the big one, get a smaller one here, and get 2 or 3 locations elsewhere.
Right.
And now you can start selling these as a franchise. And end up having maybe 1,000 one day.
And instead of the bulk of your revenues going towards cost of goods sold, it goes towards your profit in your pocket.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because if you're generating rent revenue is say $5,000, but your rent is $4,000, that's $4,000 cost of goods sold right there.
Absolutely.
You're only making $1,000. But if you can flip that. Go ahead.
I don't want to plug this movie, but I got to bring it up to you guys. Have you seen the movie The Founder?
No.
It was a story.
That's the one about McDonald's?
Absolutely.
I got to see it.
Oh,
I got to see it.
It shows that the guy was not making any money, even though he had dozens of McDonald's.
Yes.
Now, when they turned around and said, you should buy the land that the McDonald's sit on, you're not about selling burgers. You should buy the land.
Exactly.
Oh,
in fact,
man.
in all of our
Watch
classes,
the movie.
Yeah.
I
got to see it. I got to see it.
I'm like, that's why every time a movie like that come out, they'll put out a black movie on the same day.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to go see the black movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we got to see these movies because it shows that they didn't put anything into these business startups.
See, that's pearl of wisdom. Yeah. And I don't remember where I was last week. We were talking about the same concept. Someone says, do you know why it's important to know where a McDonald's is being built? They're going, I don't care about that. Yes, you should care.
Absolutely.
Because McDonald's, they build on their own land, and wherever they build, there's a lot of people going there. It makes the property, your property value go up.
Absolutely.
So that's where you want to be.
Right. And these are things that
and actually in my entrepreneurial classes, that was in marketing classes and your MBA classes, that's what you talk about.
Yes.
You don't talk about McDonald's being a burger place. You talk about McDonald's being in business. He's in the real estate business. There, he is not in the burger place.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And he's in the real estate business all over the world.
Oh yeah.
And it just happened to be a product that they put on their land. Right. It had nothing to do with burgers. That's why there's no but here, and that makes sense as to why they're having some issues now, because land has become very scarce in the United States, right? Well, that's what they tell us anyway.
With that.
But
not at all.
And actually, TJ, I was at a forum. It was called the Housing Our Workers Forum. And you actually should have been there. I'm going to make sure that you meet the Mel Wilson, who was on our show last week, because we were there in the Valley, and our conversation was the housing crisis here, because we have not enough inventory for the number of people that are actually living, and this is around the country, but mainly we're talking in Los Angeles, and that rents are so expensive and so many people are homeless and so forth and so on. So that was the conversation, and it was he had an amazing turnout. He's been in real estate for the last 50 years. And so the questions we were asked, and I sat on the panel, and one of the questions was, how did we get here? And then the second question was, and there was an input from those of us on the panel, those that were esteemed real estate professionals, those that were in the governmental entities, and those that sat with all the NAR and the real estate associations and DRA. But and the second question was, how do we move from here and be successful in creating housing for both units as well as single family homes? Because the way it's going right now, we have units, but in 5 years, those families that are going to be in the units are going to have families and children and multiple children, and living in an apartment is not going to be conducive to and then the children will have parks and play and grass and all that sort of stuff. So then we'll be back here again in 5 years because we have to figure out where we're going to put single family homes. So, and then the final question was, how do we work together collaboratively? And that's why it will be great for you to have that conversation and to meet with Mel, is how do we work as a collaboration to develop, because the foreign investors are coming in with cash that make it very, very difficult. There is nothing even resembling an affordable housing anymore because they're foreign and they bring in their own money. So they're not under any governmental regulations to add in affordable housing. And you have people that are making $10 an hour and they can't afford $1,700, or in the South LA is actually $2,300 actually to have a 1-bedroom apartment.
Wow. In
LA if you want to live here. And then the other question was having to live way out and then drive, or way out and there's no job. So that was a conversation that we had. And there's several articles. I'll send it because he had the Daily News there and it was on the radio and the whole bit.
I think both him and Mel would make a good team.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. When you meet him, and he's connected. You know, he's very connected. Well connected. So this will be good for you. You know, spread the wealth, man.
Well, I would definitely
control more spaces. That's what you need.
And
to
actually,
do.
I heard that after after Inglewood, the next growth area again is the Palmdale, Lancaster, the Inland Empire because of Amazon, or at least it was.
See, I hope I don't go into something wrong with you guys, but we are under a lot of misinformation.
Okay, that's true.
Palmdale and Lancaster is fastly developing to the point that it's so expensive that they're pushing the Palmdale residents to California City. So I know a lot of cities that we've never heard of before that we need that plenty of land.
Yeah.
For as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
You know, we're not running out of land.
No.
In fact, when you jump on an airplane, you barely see lights down there. So what do you mean we're running out of land? Come on now, let's think about it.
I guess it just depends on where you want to live.
Right.
But I know Vegas was the same way, and now
everywhere.
Vegas has been
See, this is why we have to have a manufacturing. I'm sorry, not a manufacturing, but a land development classes because we have to think like developers.
Okay.
If you learn to think like a developer, your whole perspective of the world changes.
That's true.
You see things totally different.
That is true.
When you're driving down the street, you're like, wait a minute. You start noticing things.
Yeah.
When you're thinking about stuff and people start having conversations, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Developers drive the world. So if I start talking about things, it just change your whole perspective. So it's very critical that we start teaching our children at a very young age about development. Just like me, I learned because of all the crime was going on, like your mom would say, hey, I need you to go over across the street in the other neighborhood and get me some swabs from Thrifties. Well, guess what? That's the wrong neighborhood. Now he's going to get shot. So some of the guys in my neighborhood, they bought 10 parcels of land and they said, all in our neighborhood, and we're going to build 10 burger stands, 10 beauty salons, 10 barbershops, 10 one-hour photos. That kind of show you the date now. You know, and we're going to build all of these things and give some jobs so we won't have to worry about people getting shot. So at 9 years old, I found out what blueprints were. I got to learn how to read the blueprints. Because I was a 9-year-old with 1.5 million questions. You know how the young people come in and be like, will you leave me alone and go watch TV?
Right, exactly.
Now, there wasn't no TV back then. There wasn't nothing to watch. So they was like, well, just answer his questions. And he explained to me, this is what the blueprints are. This is what some land is. This is what development is. This is what construction is. So I learned all of that.
Wow.
So from 9 to 13, or what was it, 12 or 13, I watched some strip malls going up.
Yeah.
And then I remember telling the guy, I said, we're reading the blueprints, and the guy says he's finished and he needs them to sign off on it. My buddy to sign off, and I'm looking, and I'm like, well, that's not right. He's like, why? I said, in the drive-through, people are going to get jacked because you can't get out of there.
That's true.
And then the guy started laughing, like, get out of here with that stuff. And then my buddy said, wait a minute, no, he's right. He's right. Redesign that. He said, that's going to cost you a lot of money. He said, redesign it.
Yeah.
We don't need that to be locked in. And next thing you know, he said, from now on, you work with TJ. I'm like 12 years old.
That's amazing.
So by the time I was 20 years old, I was running circles around people because I can identify land.
Wow.
This is a good deal. That's not a good deal. Okay. That's a great building. Let's buy that one. Don't touch that one.
Yeah. And see, that's where it shows that being in a certain environment, it really builds your intellect. Right. You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because if you weren't in certain environment, that's why I share with people right now in Crystal, whenever we go to a restaurant, you know, I sit a certain place in the rest. I'm not sitting with my back to the door. There's a reason for that.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
You wanna see.
And that's because of my environment.
Right.
You see what I'm
See
saying?
what's going on
So,
around
so
you.
those are things just like you're pointing out with the building.
Just like right now, we got the dominant conversation in our community is, oh my God, the prices are so expensive. Oh, I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm moving to Texas. But when I go into my white friends' communities, they're like, oh my God, how do we get to Watts? I got to go get some of that land, you know? And I'm like, dude, you just came from Italy. You know what I'm saying? What do you know about Watts?
Yeah.
You know? They're like, oh, that's where the investments are. So we have people coming from all around the world looking for Compton.
Because they're hearing about it.
Yes.
They're hearing about it.
So even at my friends' here's another thing. We got this big divide. We got people saying, "Oh, black people don't have this and they don't have that and they're not doing this," and then we got the people over here that's doing it.
Yeah,
but they don't know each other.
Yeah.
They don't even talk. They don't communicate.
Right, exactly.
Because these people over here are too smart. They're all educated.
Yeah.
You got degrees.
Right.
You can't tell them anything.
Yeah.
So these people over here, they're just living it and doing it.
Yeah.
So, for example, my buddy at Tomorrow's Aeronautical Museum. You guys heard of that? Mm-hmm. He's over there. People coming in there. Europeans coming in, and he's flying them around over the city, and they're like, okay, take us to flyover Compton. We're flying. I'm like, I never realized just how much development is happening. Mm-hmm. So when was the last time you drove through Watts?
Yeah.
When was the last time you drove through Compton every block?
Compton a couple weeks ago. I went to a funeral.
Yeah.
See, we go straight in and
get out.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
But when I'm flying over and I'm looking down, all I see is brand new wood and construction and concrete
opportunities.
Trucks. It's so much development, but we don't see it.
Yes.
We don't know.
Well, we definitely want to continue this because I'm getting inspired here right now. So it's now 4:30. I think we're going to go ahead and take another break, Felicia. Take a 2-minute break, and we'll come right back to this. And Crystal, you've got some vital information that I want you to weave into this conversation.
All righty. Sounds good to me.
All right. So we'll take a break, Crystal.
Okay.
Hello, meet Larry. Larry is a general contractor. Larry is very good at his craft, but Larry has a very tough time managing his paperwork because he is busy taking care of his clients' needs. Larry just cannot find his important business documents when needed. Larry is also being passed over for bid opportunities from prime contractors because he is perceived as not ready. He doesn't know where his business license, certifications, insurance, and other key corporate documents are located most of the time. Lucy owns an auto body and collision repair shop and has been using a business management and procurement assistance program called Small Biz Pro to keep her business organized, business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. Small Biz Pro is a 3-in-1 cloud-based business management, procurement, and market research assistance system designed to help businesses become business ready, contract ready, and bank loan ready. It also provides back-office operation solutions for small businesses. Lucy is able to stay ahead of her competitors because she uses Small Biz Pro to manage her business daily. Lucy just clicks on Small Biz Pro from her tablet, mobile phone, laptop, or any internet-accessible device for data retrieval, and she's got it. Lucy introduces Larry to Small Biz Pro, and now Larry is more organized and can now find all of his documents and new bid opportunities in seconds. Larry now saves $120 in labor costs for each missing or misplaced document. Just simply go to your web browser and log into smallbizpro.net and register today for a limited 30-day free trial offer. Services start as low as $1 per day. Let's put the competition out of business. Small Biz Pro. If you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. Register now at smallbizpro.net and begin saving money. Email info@smallbizpro.net or call 626-533-1186.
So we're back on the Business Zone. We're having a great conversation here, Crystal and our guests. And Mr. Loftin, just lead us back into this. You've got some great information that you want to share with us some more.
And so I'm going to lead kind of in because, TJ was able to use one platform to jump off to another platform. And you actually had the benefit of being exposure to both of your industries that you become successful in, and you were inquisitive, and I think that's a key factor right there is that you ask questions, and you just and obviously to be in land development and to be observant is important because a lot of times we don't see the opportunities and they're sitting right up underneath our eyes, but we don't see it. It's not laid out all pretty and wrapped up in a ribbon. So therefore, there are no opportunities, right? And you also reached out to collaborate with other people. Absolutely. Now, those are all key factors to being successful and to changing the current paradigm. Because Gilbert and I, we meet, and you're a coach as well. So you get it when you're in a class. I know you get the same thing. So when you bring these innovative ideas and people kind of look at you blankly and they're looking at you like you're a superhero because you done something miraculous to them, which is not miraculous really at all. It's just you were inquisitive, you researched, you identified an opportunity, and you found out how you could get involved in that opportunity.
He was persistent about it, and he was persistent and
determined, whereas a lot of our business owners are not. They kind of, some of the stuff just kind of falls into their lap and then they don't venture out and to find out what else, where here I am right now. And so for you, from what I'm getting from this conversation, you are already looking out 5-10 years.
10, 20 years.
10, 20 years where most of us, so when you say no, there's not a problem because you're already 20 years out, right? Most people are still right now.
There is actually a problem, and I'm just going to throw this out there.
Okay.
We're worried about some bubble, but the reality is they're trying to convince us to sell.
Yes.
That's why you look on TV and you see flip this house, flip this, flip in Tennessee, flip in Palmdale, flip in LA. It's all about selling. But the reality is real estate is a sit and hold item.
It's a sit and hold. It's a long-term investment.
It's long-term investment. And back in 2002 to 2006, there was nothing in LA that justified $400,000 houses.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, or $700,000, whatever it was here.
Right.
Palmdale went from $100 for a big giant house to $500 and $1 million. So there was nothing, no jobs to justify that. But guess what? Now we have Google, Tesla, SpaceX, Belkin, Yahoo, Amazon, all of these billion and trillion dollar corporations surrounding us, and they're pushing the real estate values up. And that's what people are not paying attention to. So it's important that we educate people and let them know that in the next 3 years, you're going to be a millionaire if you own a home.
If you own a home. If you don't sell.
You sit and hold.
Right.
Why is that? Because what happened in Alta Vista, what is it where Facebook and everybody is?
Oh, right.
Up north.
Yeah, right up there in
Palo Alto.
Silicon Valley there.
Palo Alto is, what happened in Palo Alto is so many corporations, billion-dollar corporations were there that they pushed the cost of living up through the roof. And their employees could not afford to live across the street.
Right.
So they went on $1.2 million for a 700 square foot loft. So they decided, we need to move because all our people live in Palmdale, hypothetically speaking.
Right.
And every time their child gets sick, they can't come to work.
Right.
So we need to move somewhere affordable. So where is that place affordable at? Santa Monica, Los Angeles. You look in Torrance, we got Ferrari just opened up, Maseratis 2 doors down, Porsche dealership. They're getting prepared. So they're going to push the prices of real estate further through the roof. So we need to start preparing people to keep the houses and what to do with the money when they get the money. Because they will have the money. Trust me. I've seen this happen in Palmdale. Everybody became a millionaire overnight, and all of a sudden they start making these crazy purchases and went broke 2 years later.
Because if we come back, that comes down to the financial literacy and not understanding money and thinking money is just to spend right away because they've never learned the value of investment. That was not something that was exposed to many of us. And if we didn't see it in our homes, and then the other thing I think is a lot of times, depending on your age bracket, probably not as much as your age group, but in my age group, and I'm sure in Gwen's and Walter's, parents didn't talk about finances. They didn't tell you how much they made. They didn't tell you what their assets were, or even you didn't even know if they owned the house.
We didn't even know what assets were.
We didn't know what assets
and
were.
liabilities.
So you didn't get, and Walter and Gwen are both in the financial industry, but those are some of the challenges that we had. Is that we never, and it was purpose, it was by design.
Absolutely.
We didn't understand, or still today understand, the true value of money.
Absolutely.
Because if we did, our $1.2 trillion that we are, as a consumer, would have a lot more value to us and we would get it. When I say that, those in the room that understand money go, whoa, that's a lot of money. Those that don't understand, they're like, but I got to have my tennis shoes. I got to have this. I got to have that. I got to have that. Not understanding the power of that dollar and how that speaks volumes and how it changes your paradigm of how people interact with you.
And that's why those numbers that you have right there is going to speak directly to that.
It will.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. So I'm participating, Recycling Black Dollars myself, and there's a number. So there's been an undercurrent going on in Los Angeles, and it really kind of constituted out of what was happening up and down Crenshaw. Because a lot of our businesses, there are like 300 and something businesses along Crenshaw at the beginning of the construction, and there's a half of that or less than a half of that now because one, they didn't own their buildings. One, they didn't have, they couldn't tell you how much money they made because they weren't keeping financial records and none of that sort of stuff. They just weren't running their businesses. It was cash and carry, because you had a lot of barbers, a lot of beauticians, and a lot of on-demand cash kind of businesses. So that money wasn't going into banks. It was being spent beforehand or wherever they were doing with it, but nothing that could help them buy that building because they didn't have any financial records. So there's an initiative that was put in place, and it started in Baltimore, is a partnership between Milken Institute and the Small Business Administration. Now, there's been several occasions where they had talked about redefining and reclassifying and how the Small Business Association provides loans to minority-owned businesses. It has never been done, and I think that goes all the way back to the Reagan era. So Milken and the small business, they've created a joint effort, and they're joined together to create practical recommendations to increase the lending to the underserved marketplace. That's the black and the brown. And so we've been having these forums. We launched in October to have conversations about how do we change what is going on with us finding loans. So they'll provide a loan for us we can get secured credit cards, we can get mortgages, we can get car loans, but the one loan that is very elusive is the business loan.
Right.
I mean, a house loan, if you go buy a house and you have the income, you can buy a house that's almost $1 million if you have two incomes that are making X amount of dollars, right? And that's for a 30-year loan. But it has nothing to do with you creating legacies. Right. Because that's your home. That's not an investment, and it's still owned by the bank. So they can take it whenever they want to. So they've brought this together. So we've been sitting down we've had a couple of task force meetings. It's broken down into several sectors: the lending marketplace, the emerging sectors, which is the small business and existing businesses, and we need to change what's going on out there. So there were some numbers that that were given to us, and this meeting took place yesterday on the 7th, on Tuesday. And I know what the deal is, and I've been involved in a lot of meetings, but when I heard these numbers, I was like, oh my God, it felt like somebody had just stabbed me in the heart. So when they look at the presented marketplace with the black and the brown, the population, we make up 13% of that. And the Hispanic population makes up really 16 or 17% of the population of the United States. Business-wise, the number of black-owned firms, and this is coming from the 2012 census, is 109,000 small businesses. In the United States.
100 and what?
109,000 black-owned firms that they classified as small employer firms.
That is small. That is super small.
And in the Hispanic, they're slightly bigger. Now, total firms, there's 5 million. So we represent 2% of that.
But you know what? Those are, to me, that's inaccurate.
Yeah,
based on the fact that that's not counting internet businesses.
Yeah.
Well, and again, so when
eBay,
we heard
Amazon,
exactly, but when we heard this, so this is the question was there are a lot. I mean, because they were saying this is just census data.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So for the black and the brown, we're not very trusting, and we weren't giving you accurate information anyway, which is why we knew what transpired on Crenshaw, because they're not going to give that information unless they have a relationship with you and feel comfortable enough to divulge that. And in the Hispanic marketplace, there's like about 7% of the employer owned. Now there are tons of self-employed, sole proprietor, no employee businesses. But for those that have more than two to three employees where they're paying payroll, is a very small percentage. Because even if you have your online businesses, it's usually just one person. You're not really hiring anybody or paying payroll where it's going into a payroll system. That's where these numbers were generated from.
Well, see, to me, they're trying to give us some false goal. We don't have this, so that's not a business. When the reality is the world is changing. And people are sitting home, laying in their bed on their smartphone, making 6 figures a year.
Right, and that's the purpose of this initiative, because they brought in different people from different areas. So a big area or a big demographics that we're working with is the millennials, and those millennials are the ones that do that kind of business. So there's a guy, and you probably know have heard of him. His name is Mike Muse. He's an entertainer. He's big in the music industry, but he is now working. He works with the SBA. He partners with their SBA, and he actually works for My Brother's Keeper. Okay. And so they're reaching out to the millennials, and that's what we need to do, though. But again, bottom line is it comes down to capital, because if they didn't have the wherewithal that you have had, most of our small businesses don't have the access to the capital, or they don't know they have the access to the capital in order to grow their businesses to a place where they can hire 10, 15, 20 employees. You got into manufacturing. How many people have you spoken to that don't even think that manufacturing is on the table for them?
A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people outside of my industry.
Outside of your industry.
But in my industry, it's normal.
Right, exactly.
For the 22-year-old guy to be, I make these hydraulic parts now.
Right, and that's where we need to be, is creating manufacturing opportunities
and creating access to it
and access to those, right? And I saw from your website that you have a lot of those type of classes and so forth. But we need to bring you into our circle, because when I'm having these conversations with the individuals, that is not even something on the radar.
Because even some of what Crystal is talking, some of those numbers she's talking about, she hasn't even gotten to the point where the number of minority businesses who've gotten loans, how small that is.
Right.
Or opportunities for their business. You see what I mean?
Right. And I don't have a problem with them not giving people loans, because most people who get loans don't know what to do with the money and don't need that much in the first place. Yeah. So I look at Facebook started with $1,250.
Yeah.
Apple Computer started with less than $1,500. I'm sorry. Facebook was less than $1,500. Apple was $1,250. I started with $500, and I can just keep going on and on. In fact, I think I gave there was a meeting and I was speaking, and I asked the whole room. I said, room full of business owners. I said, how many of you guys, and I was using college tuition, how many of you guys had $300,000 when you started your business? Whole room laughed at me. 160, still laughing. 50, still laughing. We didn't get down to 10%, to 10,000 before I started seeing the majority of the room's hands go up. And how many of the room people in here are millionaires? Half the room. So we're asking for the wrong thing. So we got people coming in, I need $50,000. I'm like, what do you need $50,000 for? Oh, I need to buy some vans and I got to have some money for... And I'm like, you've never had a business, so why are you going to go into debt before you get started? Why don't you make some money first and let that money pay for the next thing that you need? In the car industry, someone comes to me, and that's another thing. I see people come in and say, okay, I'm going to get this deal. So Crystal wants to do business with me, and she says she wants to buy 1,000 of my new phone cases. So I'm going to go run to the bank and ask to borrow $50,000 so I can make those phone cases. But when the reality is, if Crystal wants to buy these, Crystal needs to give me a deposit on these.
Well, that's
what eBay said. That's what eBay is based on. So that's where we go wrong.
Right. But that's the new on demand, and a lot of and we pretty much deal with not the millennial. We're dealing with more established business owners that they only know one way. And so that's being able to open up their eyes to see out of the box thinking. Right. But you were exposed to out of the box thinking. I'm an out of the box thinker. He is definitely an out of the box thinker. But majority of and Gilbert's marketplace is mostly the Hispanic population. Mine's is more us. And so he sees the same trends in both areas. So somewhere the training or the opportunities, the SBA, and that's some of the things that we're talking. It's not the right conversation that's being had. So that we can get the information out, because if you did what you did with manufacturing, that's where we need to be focusing on.
Absolutely.
Right? Not and those of our businesses that find it's easy to go into a service-based business because you don't need any money. But can we take those individuals and move them into manufacturing? There's always a need. And now, because we live in a global world, you don't have to just manufacture for here. You can manufacture and send that to another continent. Right. And Africa is like a melting pot of opportunities because your rubber tires is not over there. Right. Your covers are not over there. Right. They need everything that we take for granted over here. They need it over there.
Right. And that's how I did very well in the lowriding industry, because I started shipping cars to Japan, Germany, Australia, New Zealand, and then they started calling me saying, hey, well, when we're driving our lowriders, what do I wear? What kind of hat? And I'm like, you got to have a hat that say Compton on it. They're like, oh, send me a container. And then then I realized, wait a minute. They don't know.
I'm loving this.
So that's why I started a clothing line back in the day. I said, oh, they wearing these shirts that we got. They said, what kind? And I'm like, oh, it's a shirt with a rim on it. And they like, send me a container. And then I'm like, Crystal, who makes shirts? And that's how the business started. I need you to send me this much money. And so this is why it's important. Then I realized I made more money overseas than I did here.
That's right. That's right.
Way more. So they were excited. So money never slows down. It changes places.
It changes places, and that's what we have to get at. I am definitely going to, because we're doing, I do a business camp with kids every year. They're technically from the age of 14 to 18, but we have a couple of 10-year-olds in there because they've been doing stuff. I would love to have you come out and talk to the kids when that happens, because when I have our orientation, that's what I'm talking to the children about. If you're going to do t-shirts, I want t-shirts on a huge level. Right. I want jewelry on a large level. I don't want small stuff that is not going to make you any money more than lunch money. And to know that you can start this business today.
And that's what's important is I'm working currently to expose my industry. I stepped out of my industry. I'm like the Michael Jordan who decided I don't want to play basketball anymore. I'm going to go play baseball. So people are looking at me crazy. Like, you're crazy. You're the Steve Jobs of the low riding industry. Now you want to go do something, this public speaking thing. And I'm like, But what's happening is in my industry, we got more people, since it's grown to like over 10 million cars worldwide, we got more people coming here looking for the work to be done and don't have the people to do the work.
So we need to get the people.
Need painters, we need mechanics, we need auto body guys, we need guys that do fabrication, people who know how to weld. We don't have these things. So what people fail to understand is, I don't want my baby touching the lowrider and things like that. And I'm like, wait a minute. Low riding has hydraulics in it. It has mechanic in it. It has auto body. We're talking about pathways to leading to other things.
To Nolan Rollins, the president of the Urban League, because that's the kind of innovation
guy.
Bald head, thin.
He's tall.
Okay.
He's tall.
He's tall. Okay. So you need to meet, because that's what Nolan, he is that kind of guy. And nobody comes to the table with that kind of, nobody I know, and you can attest, is having this conversation that you're having right now. Nobody. That's why when you speak to people, they're like, what's he talking about? Because nobody's having this conversation, TJ. He's making it up.
See, TJ, the thing is, I'm just enamored right now, because that's why I'm sitting here quiet listening, because a lot of what you're saying are some of the things I've been saying for a while now, but you're taking it to another level. And this is just food to my stomach right now. You see what I'm saying? I am loving this. And it's a shame that we only have 2 hours on this show to do this. I would have wished we had 5 more hours.
Come on back out.
Oh, we got to have you back. We got to have you back, because what you're saying, a lot of key things that entrepreneurs really need to hear. Right. Because, in talking about the investments and funding and all of those are key areas that need to be explored.
And let's talk about that really fast. We get to a situation, if I say, hey, Jonathan's going to college, everybody's writing checks.
Yeah.
But if I say Jonathan has a great idea for an app, people are like, to go to college.
Yeah.
He only needs $6,000.
Exactly.
And the app could possibly sell to Apple for $1 billion.
That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
And he could come back and buy up all of the Merck Park in LA and save the community from
And
gentrification.
it's interesting, because that conversation that you had, when there have been a number of kids that have come up with these amazing apps, and then I try to bring someone in to help them figure out how to scale that, and there's nobody that in the core group of people, and some of these people are in technology, and they're not us, they're not our color, and they can't, maybe they don't want to tell our children.
Definitely don't want to.
And so our children is still like, how do I make money? Because these kids, I had one kid, and after he said that, he actually won the competition, but after he said it, he created a basketball app that will identify where a game was going at any given point in time. And this was several years ago. So then after that, there was tons of those apps out there. And then I told him, I said, why don't you then change that and add a component to the fantasy, like they have fantasy football, have fantasy basketball.
You know what the biggest thing is that we need to be learning right now? Start teaching our kindergartners.
Yes.
We got to start teaching them about apps, because it's no longer about gold and oil.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about apps, meaning Candy Crush, for example, sold for $5.9 billion.
Wow.
Every time we get something more convenient for our cell phone, that's an app that somebody just bought for over probably $800 million and up.
That's right.
And it's normal for an app to sell for $1 billion. So the new gold and oil is an idea. And this is worth so much money. It's important that's why I say I've been dealing with the Compton School District. I'm all on YouTube doing videos, and I'm talking to these kindergartners about patents, trademarks, copyrights, and intellectual property, because they're going into our school systems, coming up with video games. Why don't you create your own game on our game?
Yeah.
And they're playing
They own that.
Yeah,
they own that game that these kids are creating.
They own it. Exactly.
And maybe what we can do then on that note, because you're this innovative thinker, there are grants out there for that. So we can do that under RBD, and we can actually have classes for our kids beyond the NIFTY program, because that's what I do, a certified NIFTY program, and we have to find funding to make that happen. And it's a 10-day camp every summer. But that needs to be ongoing. And I've actually gone into schools. We can create an after-school program. And in fact, there's a guy that we're going to put a tennis program over at George Washington Carver Elementary School in Compton.
Okay.
He wants me to bring something in.
Wow.
He's very innovative. They had a tennis court. We have already put the proposal in for the tennis program. He's ready to go. He just get the sign off from his board. And I told him about the entrepreneur program. He goes, when you want to do it, just tell me what we need to do so we can sit down and put that together. Compton is your backyard. And it's next door to Willowbrook's Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, I love it.
And they have a relationship.
I love it.
And they are excited about that kind of stuff.
I love it.
This guy came in prison. He's got lacrosse. He got golf. He's got tennis. He got swimming. They do ballet over at the Boys and Girls Club. So when I talked to him about the Entrepreneur Club, he said, yeah, let's do that.
It's neat.
So let's talk about that, and we can start with him.
I'm ready.
Because he's open to that, but that's the kind of conversation we need to have. We got a couple of minutes.
Well, definitely ready to have a conversation.
Yeah, and we're going to have you back. And
we don't want to act on it. We don't want to talk about it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Too long. I'm doing stuff.
Exactly. We only have a minute left, so I don't know.
A shout out. I got to do a real shout out. I want to thank some friends of mine for participating in the partnership lending in the underserved market. That was Muriel Shabazz. Fantastic job, Muriel. Thank you. Suzanne Summons, thank you for stepping up and helping us out. Wileen Winfarrell, thank you so much for the donation for Recycling Black Dollars. We so appreciate it. We love you. And I also want to say a shout out to a mentee of mine. Over the weekend, I went to her new boutique. It's called Designs on the Vine. It was a concept 2 years ago. It is actual reality. She had told me, she goes, I am already got my expenses paid up until March, and I'm at beautiful boutique. Is in Temecula. Her and her husband moved from Los Angeles or Inglewood to Temecula. I am so proud of you, Rosalind Balmore. Thank you so much for listening and being open to the coaching and the mentorship that I provided for you, and listening to all of the other individuals that helped you make your dream a reality. And so I want to congratulate you on your store, and it's called Designs on the Vine. It's in Temecula off of Yanez Road. She's also online, and it's designsonthevine.com. So that's what I got to say.
With that being said, we ran out of time, and man, I'm telling you, TJ, we got to set up another show for you because I'm energized. I'm energized right now. Excellent. And while you haven't even heard about Small Biz Pro yet, and we got to talk about that. So it's 5:00 right now, and this is a Business Zone with Crystal
and
Gilbert Buchanan. And our special guest is TJ Loftin. And man, this has been a great show. We got to do it again.
And Gwen Lang Jones gave us that wonderful rendition and commentary on why we must continue to celebrate Black History Month. And
Excellent.
Black History Month does not take place just in the month of February. It's a lifelong, every day.
It's year long.
Yes. And we are signing off, and we will see you next Friday.
We're out.
Bye-bye.
Meet Larry. Larry is a general contractor. Larry is very good at his craft, but Larry has a very tough time managing his paperwork because he is busy taking care of his clients' needs. Larry just cannot find his important business documents when needed. Larry is also being passed over for bid opportunities from prime contractors because he is perceived as not ready. He doesn't know where his business license, certifications, insurance, and other key corporate documents are located most of the time. Lucy owns an auto body and collision repair shop and has been using a business management and procurement assistance program called Small Biz Pro to keep her business organized, business ready,